Well, well, well. On May 4th, there was an assassination. May 5th, we heard a man's final words before passing on to the other side. June 6th, a funeral date was announced. Juneteenth, a funeral was held in Inglewood, California at the Kia Forum. And finally, on the 4th of July, the day of American independence, was the burial of a colonizer. Welcome back to the third and likely final part of the Kendrick Lamar vs. Drake Bologna Beef battle. I am Micarus X, and today I will be covering the May 4th release of Kendrick Lamar's track, Not Like Us, Drake's final attempt at a retaliation with his short-lived The Heart Part 6, followed by Kendrick's Juneteenth The Pop Out Ken and Friends live event at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California, and then finally ending on the July 4th release of the music video for Not Like Us. If you're looking for a recap up to this point, I have a part 1 video that covers up to Euphoria and part 2 which covers after Euphoria all the way up to Meet the Grams. If you don't need a recap, then let's take a little peek as to what's happened since. The only response Drake has given up to this point regarding Kendrick Lamar's 6+ minute long track Meet the Grams was a post on Instagram that was like, lol, where's my daughter at? I know the track had a bunch of other things in it, but that one part was a lie, so it's probably all a lie, right guys? Right? Am I right? As Drake sits in silence with his little Instagram post, Kendrick Lamar then releases Not Like Us on May 4th, 2024. This track is the humiliation station for Drake, an execution track if you will. You might even call it a force-fed last meal. This is quite possibly the hardest diss track that's ever been made, or at least in the last 20 years. Like objectively, it's hard to make a case for it not to be. Released with the track is a screenshot of Drake's house from Google Earth covered in pins that resembled the same ones you'd find signifying markers you'd see on the sex offender's website. Releasing Not Like Us was Kendrick saying checkmate in a match Drake thought was still checkers. Later, we'll see that Drake still thinks he's playing checkers with the release of The Heart Part 6. But before all that, let's jump into the intro of Not Like Us. Kendrick kicks things off with Psst, I see dead people. In 2006, The Game kicked off his diss track at 50 Cent with the line, Dre, I see dead people, which seems to signify that Kendrick and The Game are good. Sorry, Drake. Kendrick follows it up with the classic Mustard on the beat, ho. Mustard is a producer who has collabed with YG a lot, and it looks like Drake shouting out YG didn't mean a damn thing in his previous track. Then Kendrick moves into verse 1. The first line is essentially letting Drake know he's gonna Debo his ass, which is a reference to the bully in the movie Friday, aka Kendrick is gonna bully Drake's ass. If that wasn't enough depth for you, Kendrick threw in the line a free throw, which opens up a whole bonus layer. Debo is the nickname of DeMar DeRozan, the Chicago Bulls guard forward who was born and raised in Compton, but also played for the Raptors in Toronto, which is Drake's home turf. DeRozan is one of the best free throw shooters in the NBA, so this entire line is letting Drake know any rap battle for him is the equivalent to free throws for DeRozan. It's worth noting that up to this point, Drake and DeRozan have historically been, at the very least, close acquaintances. They've been seen hanging out in public together before this feud. And if there's any doubt as to whether or not that's what Kendrick is doing with this spicy little line, Kendrick has a line later that goes, I'm glad DeRoz came home, y'all didn't deserve him neither, alongside a cameo by DeRozan in a music video for Not Like Us, which we'll get to later. This kind of crushes any allyship between him and Drake. I'm pretty sure allyship is a word. If not, don't look it up. Kendrick proceeds to give a middle finger to the whole industry, letting everyone know that he doesn't care what happens. He's here to lay down some pipe on Drake's ass, no matter the... Wait, what did I just... Maybe that's not exactly what he meant, but Kendrick also lets everyone know that this is likely going to be just as memorable of a diss track as Tupac's 1996 Hit 'Em Up diss track. Kendrick peppers in some more pedo insinuations, reminds Drake that he's still the boogeyman and he's sending more spooky his way, suggests Drake avoids Cell Block 1, which is where Gen Pop in prison is, and most inmates don't take too kindly to men that have previously spent time with children. Kendrick goes on to call out a few people Drake seems to keep close to him. The people in question, Chubbs, who he describes as a bum, Party Next Door, who seems to have a drug abuse problem, and Baca, who's had a trafficking case against him. But then Drake was like, nah dog, it's all good, you can keep hanging out, you're just one of the boys, you know, you're different. Then Kendrick goes on to ask about Drake's self-title of being a certified lover boy, and then says more like a certified pedo bear, am I right guys? Then Kendrick ends the verse by calling Drake a bitch and the line trying to strike a chord, and it's probably a minor, which hits a little harder than it probably should. But to break that line down, it's describing, number one, someone who is underage, a minor. A majority of Drake's Family Matters was recorded in A minor. It's also worth noting that A minor scale on a piano doesn't use any black keys on a piano. Another jab at Drake's insecurity about his light skin. Then the chorus, they not like us, they not like us, they not like us. The chorus drawing a clear line in the sand that Drake and his crew represent none of what Kendrick and the people who he surrounds himself with are. Then we on to verse 2. Kendrick starts off with calling out Drake for disrespecting Tupac with the AI generated version Drake used for Tupac's voice in tailor-made freestyle. He asks Drake why he's still even in this beef after J. Cole bowed out. Someone Drake seemed to have no problem having on his side, then immediately throwing him under the bus the first chance he got. Loyalty means nada to Drake. Kendrick makes fun of Drake's OVO logo of an owl, calling him a bird bitch. Calling someone a bird is generally an insult, meaning someone who is unintelligent and embarrassing. Kendrick lets Drake know that no matter how big his fan base is, everyone is going to see through his bullshit. Kendrick compares Drake to B-Rad from Malibu's Most Wanted and tells him he'd be better suited as a water boy than a rapper. Kendrick says he's been hating since 2009, talks some more shit on Drake's crew and how they all need to be placed on neighborhood watch. Tells Drake he will always lose because Kendrick is down to get his hands dirty while Drake is getting his nails painted and posting on social media. Kendrick does a little wrestling knowledge flex with the line sweet chin music and I won't pass the aux. To dive into that line, there's a wrestler named Shawn Michaels who had a signature move called sweet chin music. Shawn Michaels' longtime opponent was Canadian Bret Hart. Shawn Michaels before a match allegedly agreed to lose to Bret Hart in what became known as the Montreal Screwjob, but instead of taking the L, Shawn Michaels defeated Bret Hart. That defeat is what likely led to Bret Hart's early retirement, which is what Kendrick seems to be trying to do to Drake. Kendrick is also saying that he won't pass the aux, which is referencing the fact that he has now released 3 tracks targeting Drake in 24 hours and will continue to slap Drake's hand away every time he tries to retaliate. Kendrick ends verse 2 letting Drake know he can smoke him as easy as it is to roll a blunt. In between verses, we're hit with the chorus reminding Drake that him and his crew sucks with Not Like Us on repeat. Verse 3, Kendrick uses the first half of the verse to tell Drake he thinks it's wild for him to have any commentary about slaves and slavery, referencing when Drake had a line in the track Slime You Out that goes whipped and chained you like American slaves. Then Kendrick calls him out for doubling down in Drake's Family Matters when he rapped about Kendrick's always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed, you just acting like an activist, it's make-believe. Kendrick then provides a little history lesson about Atlanta, which Drake also mentioned in Family Matters as a diss towards The Weeknd and how his music gets played at their Pride Parade. Kendrick's history lesson is about how Atlanta was once the mecca for building railroads and trains, and the settlers there used the townsfolk to make themselves rich. Kendrick goes on to tell a little story about how in 2024 Drake uses Atlanta in the same way the settlers did. Drake used Future to get into the club, Lil Baby to understand the culture, 21 Savage to get false street cred, making tracks with Thug, Quavo, and 2 Chainz made him feel like he's in a gang. So Kendrick says it turns out Drake uses Atlanta when he needs more credibility and money, and Drake's not a colleague, you're a fucking colonizer. And Drake has no right to be talking about slaves or talking any smack about Atlanta. Then Kendrick closes out verse 3 with fortune teller-like foreshadowing. With the line, the family matter and the truth of the matter, it was God's plan to show y'all the liar. The mention of family matter suggests that this track was not pre-recorded by Kendrick and was written after Drake released Family Matters. What's doubly fun about this line is Kendrick using God's plan in the final line of the verse to show the world Drake is a liar. And dude, God's plan held the record for fastest hip-hop song to reach 100 million streams in history until Kendrick dropped Not Like Us, which surpassed 100 million plays in 9 days. I mean, bruh, that's like some wild foreshadowing, dude. How do you predict that type of takeover? Truly God's plan. Not Like Us ends with a bridge into the outro. The bridge is Kendrick calling Drake a fan of him, a fan of black culture. Drake isn't a colleague, he's just a fucking fan. He calls him a 6'9" god, which could be poking at his promiscuity, or Drake's self-title of being the sixth god, or something made to sound like he's calling Drake the 16-eyeing god, like he's got his eyes out for girls around the age of 16, or knowing Kendrick, all of the above. Kendrick tells Drake it's time to run for his life and closes out with making some more fun of OVO OVO with the line, "Let me hear you say OVO, OVO." And then a final sarcastic fuck you and a reminder that even with Drake's one advantage so far, which is a club-friendly diss track people can dance to, Kendrick will beat him with the outro. "Are you my friend? Are you locked in? Then step this way, then step this way, then step this way, then step that way." Wow, it was a very nice performance, Micker SX. Thank you, Borat. Alright, we finally made it into a new day. We don't have to wait for long before Drake responds. On May 5th, 2024, one day after the release of Not Like Us, Drake drops The Heart Part 6. Leading up to the release of The Heart Part 6, Drake made an Instagram post of a screenshot of another Instagram post that Dave Free, Kendrick Lamar's longtime best friend, posted with heart emojis on a post of Whitney Alford that included her and Kendrick's children, likely trying to build the narrative that Dave Free is actually the father of Kendrick Lamar's son. The post included the caption, "The Heart Part 6 out now, and we know you're dropping 6 minutes after, so instead of posting my address, you have a lot to address," which, as a post, all has real middle school energy to it, so kind of a self-report once again by Drake. So let's see what kind of things Drake felt that Kendrick had to address instead of posting his address. There's an intro, a verse, and an outro. The intro pretty much summarizes the entire track with the lines, "Let me see you prove it, just let me see you prove it." The entire track revolves around Drake refuting a few of the things Kendrick has said so far in an attempt to dismantle the entire thing. In the verse, Drake has the line, "My Montreal connects stand up, now fall down. The ones that you're getting stories from, they all clowns." The first line is referencing Andrew Curnew, who Drake had in his Family Matters video, a member of the Canadian Hells Angels and also happens to be Drake's neighbor, likely the last standing person with street cred that Drake can hide behind. The second line is insinuating that whoever Kendrick has getting his intel from is a clown, which comes back around when Kendrick releases the Not Like Us music video that includes a special feature from Compton's finest, Tommy the Clown. Drake goes on to claim he's been feeding bad info to Kendrick this whole time, and Kendrick must feel super dumb and he's really reactive, unlike Drake, who's super dedicated to the craft. Drake then runs through the same things he's already mentioned in previous diss tracks. Kendrick has cheated on his partner, potentially physically abused her, Dave Free, Kendrick's best friend, is actually the father to his son, etc, etc. He then spends a majority of the rest of the verse focusing on the call-outs Kendrick Lamar made about Drake, focusing primarily on the call-out of Drake spending time with underage girls with one of the most ridiculous denials of an accusation I've ever seen, with the line, "If I was fucking young girls, I promised I'd have been arrested. I'm way too famous for this shit you just suggested." Even though we're living in an era of so many famous people that are being accused of and convicted for sexual offenses, people like R. Kelly, Jeff Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Cosby, and while this has all been unfolding, P. Diddy, and many, many more. Drake throws some shade at Eazy-E, saying he's on a sexual offender list, but you won't see Drake on one. Legit seems like outside of Kendrick, Drake will only go after smaller stars or dead ones. Drake makes claim that Kendrick is probably just making stuff up because he's never dealt with his own trauma properly. Drake tries his hand at an A minor play on words, thinking it'll come out similar to how Kendrick did, telling Kendrick fans to B sharp, very clever, and you thought you left D flat, D major, D being Drake, excellent work Drake. My god, exactly like how Kendrick used A minor and Not Like Us, pretty much exactly the same. Drake mentions Millie Bobby Brown, someone he spent some time with when she was only 14 years old, but what makes Drake mentioning her in his own track bizarre is that at no point has Kendrick Lamar ever mentioned her, so it's a wee bit of a self-report, huh? Drake implies that Kendrick and his crew have been paying for views and bot comments, again another self-report, because Kendrick has clearly spent little time leveraging social media in the past and has only really done it as a way to show how embarrassing Drake is for making it his whole world. Drake also suggests Kendrick is only doing this to promote his new upcoming album, because as we all know, Kendrick Lamar's other nickname is Kendrick the Clout Chaser. Drake closes out with what he thinks is another mic drop in the outro, saying he's glad to be writing again and that Kendrick would be a legit competitor if the Predator accusations were even true. Maybe one day when Kendrick gets some of his facts straight, he'll be as good as Drake is. But he's certainly glad he could help Kendrick start making music again. Then Drake's The Heart Part 6 ends. What an absolute fucking nightmare. Going back and re-listening to The Heart Part 6 and rereading the lyrics over and over after having gone through Not Like Us in detail was insane. This shit was a straight up embarrassment to dissect after the absolute precision that was Not Like Us. It was so bad that personally I wouldn't have even dignified it with a response. And it turns out I'm not alone on that. Kendrick Lamar practices radio silence for nearly a month after Drake's The Heart Part 6 release until June 6, 2024, Kendrick announces the Pop Out with Ken and Friends happening on Juneteenth. On the same day that Kendrick announces this, Drake deletes all of his previous diss tracks and posts about said diss tracks from his socials. Likely because he knows whatever is coming, it might be best that he hide what's already happened. This isn't actually the first time Drake has done something like this. In 2018, after Pusha T slapped Drake in the face with the story of Adidon, revealing to the world Drake had a secret son, Drake quietly admitted defeat and tried to charge forward like nothing ever happened. It seems a bit of a pattern, but I don't think it's going to work out as well as it did then this time. Drake spent so much time flexing all the celebrities he knows from East LA, he forgot that the city is still made up of all the people who actually live there. And as we've already seen, most of the dudes Drake thought were on his side, like The Game and YG, they don't really give a fuck about him beyond making a little music. Fast forward to 2 weeks later, June 19th, 2024, the Pop Out, Ken and Friends. Kendrick Lamar and friends at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California. A more than 3-hour long live event that was narrated by E40. The event included performances by Mustard, Tyler the Creator, YG, who Drake thought was going to keep him safe, Schoolboy Q, Ty Dolla $ign, and a surprise guest, Dr. Dre, along with a shitload more. Attendees included Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, the CEO of Top Dog Entertainment, someone Drake tried to stir the pot about in his diss push-ups, as dominating Kendrick's career. Having Anthony there discredits Drake's claim on that. Rick Ross, The Weeknd, LeBron frickin' James, Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, SZA, along with a shitload more guests. DeMar DeRozan being there is worth noting because historically the public knew him as being very close with Drake. What's funny is his attendance makes things a little awkward, but it turns out there's room for even a little bit more awkwardness when DeMar shows up in the Not Like Us music video, but we aren't there yet. Also in attendance was Lamar's partner Whitney and their kids, who were seen dancing and smiling throughout the event, essentially crushing any rumors that they were having any relational issues. The event itself was live streamed on Amazon Music and Twitch, breaking records on both platforms, which I'll include a link in the corner, but I'm not sure how long it will remain up, so make sure to catch it before it's gone. 3.5 hours is a lot to cover, so instead I'll leave it up to you to watch it, and I'll just touch on the closeout of the event. Dr. Dre surprises everyone by showing up on stage partway through K-Dot's performance, and Dre kicks off with a verse from Still Dre, in which Kendrick covers Snoop Dogg's lines, which seems to be a level up from Drake's usage of AI to get Snoop on a track. Dre then follows it up with a verse from California Love, a track that he did with Tupac back in 1995. Another diss at Drake that the dude who made California Love with his idol Tupac was standing on stage with Kendrick Lamar instead. If that wasn't enough, as Dr. Dre is walking off stage, Kendrick yells a question at him. Kendrick asks if Dre has anything else he wants to say before continuing the party. Dre asks for a moment of silence before saying, "Psst, I see dead people," leading everyone in the audience to lose their motherfucking minds. Now let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. The "Psst, I see dead people" line is in reference to a diss track about 50 Cent by The Game from 2006 called One Blood, in which The Game starts out with, "Dre, I see dead people." Now the track was primarily targeted towards 50 Cent, but The Game has also mentioned that it was a bit of a fuck you towards Dr. Dre. You can click the link in the corner to hear The Game actually touch on the song a bit if you're interested in that. But to then have Dr. Dre on stage acknowledging a diss track that played a huge role in the falling out of him and The Game, all in an effort to say fuck you to Drake, is incredible. Mutual enemies sometimes leads to unexpected bridges being built. There's a very low chance of this, but I think it would be awesome to see The Game getting brought back into rap conversations, as I was always a big fan and thought he was better than 50 Cent back in the day. Although very unlikely, as he still seems to carry a lot of resentment about the whole thing even after all these years. But that's a separate conversation. Kendrick kicks off, Not Like Us, but when he arrives at the A minor line, he lets the audience take over. Then K-Dot starts from the top. Kendrick Lamar goes on to perform the track 4 more times back to back, with Mustard showing up to join Kendrick on stage, followed by more and more artists and athletes. Kendrick had a group photo taken shouting, "Let the world see this," wanting to document the fact that the world has never, quote, seen this many sections on one stage, keeping it together, having peace, end quote. Shouting out Inglewood and Los Angeles for making this happen, mentioning the fact that they've all lost people to the streets, and for everyone to be there together, Crips, Bloods, and Pirates, is something special. Kendrick goes on to say that everyone in this group has lost someone, and everything has led to this point of unity. The back and forth records are meaningless because it's about this moment that brought them all together on stage. After the photo is taken, everyone starts moving off stage with the beat of Not Like Us playing in the background. And then that was it. It felt like the end of it. The pop out, Ken and Friends, was like the funeral of Drake, followed with silence from both sides for a bit. Other than the occasional passive-aggressive social media post by Drake, with the comments section set to limited responses only. Until July 4, 2024. Not Like Us music video is dropped by Kendrick Lamar. It turns out we still had the burial and an unmarked grave left for Drake. The final "fuck your phony ass, this is my city, I love them and they love me." Honestly, what's fucking crazy is this was originally supposed to be the end of the video. It was supposed to end with the pop out. But then on July 4th, aka 4th of July, aka America's Independence Day, not to be confused with the 1996 film featuring Will Smith, aka Tupac's ex-girlfriend's husband, Kendrick Lamar released a freaking music video for Not Like Us, and without changing the lyrics, managed to address and squash all of the allegations about Kendrick, his friends, his family, and his hometown. The beautiful thing is, this music video feels like Kendrick using the death of Drake, by his hand by the way, to grow the unity in the community. That's a pretty fat assertion on my part, so you'll have to check out the video and decide for yourself if you agree with me or not. A brief rundown of what can be seen in the video. The thumbnail for the video is a picture of Compton City Hall. Kendrick adds in a small intro with a different beat than the original Not Like Us track, likely hinting at more Kendrick to come in the near future. The track pauses, and then it's followed by Kendrick knocking on a door, likely representing the door to Compton City Hall, revealing a clown asking for a password, to which Kendrick responds with, "I see dead people." The clown's eyes widen and the door opens, revealing Tommy the Clown, who steps behind a DJ setup, letting Kendrick know that he's late. Tommy the Clown is well known throughout Compton and is being shown here as the main representative of the city, showing Kendrick not only cares about the people of the city, but has an actual knowledge of who those people are. Also, Tommy the Clown telling Kendrick Lamar he's late is a callback to Drake making comments about how long it's taken Kendrick to reply with a diss. Mucho regretto on Drake's part, and there's a lot more of that as the video continues. The video includes a cameo from DeMar DeRozan, Kendrick beating the hell out of an Al Pinata, and more of Tommy the Clown. But the most important part happens at the end. It includes a scene with Kendrick dancing around his house with his partner Whitney Alford and the children they share together. Another scene that includes a huge gathering of the folks living in Compton, together rapping the outro of the song. And then the final credits, starting with directed by Dave Free and Kendrick Lamar. These scenes show more than just the beef going on between Kendrick and Drake. They have Kendrick showing love to what he values most: family, community, and friends, while simultaneously squashing the familial, friendship, and community allegations Drake has tried to throw Kendrick. Quite possibly the first double entendre without using words, but just showing actions. Alright, that one's a bit of a stretch, but it kind of felt cool saying. There is a lot more to unpack from this video. A user on Reddit did an absolutely incredible job breaking down at least a few of the things that can be seen. I will leave a link to that Reddit post in the description down below. below. As for my insight regarding the video, I'm gonna end it there. If you're interested in me doing a breakdown of the video sometimes, let me know in a comment down below. In the meantime, I'll leave you with my predictions as to what's likely to come next. Prediction number 1. Kendrick Lamar gets a Grammy for a track that revolves around calling Drake a pedo bear. Number 2. More Kendrick music in the future that's mostly unrelated to all of what just went down. Numero 3. Drake pretends he hasn't been massacred, like none of this ever happened, and keeps making music in the hopes the larger population doesn't find out about it. Numero 4. Drake changes genres in the same way Machine Gun Kelly quit rapping and started doing pop punk after Eminem destroyed him. Number 5. Drake goes to prison for the rest of his life. Number 6. All of the above. Let me know if you have any predictions of your own in the comment section down below. Whatever ends up happening, I'll leave you with this.
Well, it seems our abilities are evenly matched. You're just lucky I didn't go all out in this battle, because I think you wouldn't like that so much. Your counterattack was most impressive. Did you catch my sick wordplay, though? Very clever.
Thanks for watching. If you like this series, please leave a like and share this and the previous parts of the saga with anyone who might be interested in the topic. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for deep dives I'll be doing in the future. My name is Micarus X. I hope you have a good old-fashioned day, and I'll catch you next time.